Acho que, né, boa tarde para todos vocês, agradeço a presença de todos. Só para falar que a gente tem uma convidada especial que é americana, ela não fala português, então nós vamos fazer a apresentação em inglês, tá bom? Então, hello, I am Carla Policarpo, professor of the Institute, as you may know, and I'm also the International Relations Coordinator of our institute. The mission of the coordination is to bring information from the central administration to our institute to help professors and students with questions concerning international affairs, think of ways to establish agreements with international institutions, and also to promote the international insertion of our institute. To do so, in order to promote the international insertion of our institute, one of the ways I believe we can do that is by sending students abroad. You students can actually be our base, our advertisement, showing in the institutions you go our excellent education. And hopefully, also, once you go, you acquire new expertise and you can bring it back to Brazil. Hopefully, like me that came back, and some of our guests that will be here today. So, in order to find ways to do that, in collaboration with NADI, our graduate programs, and with the support of the CAP Sprint program, today we will start a series of lives on international fellowships. Today we invited Dr. Kara Coleman, Program Director of the Biomedical Programs of the PEW Charitable Trusts, Dr. Dario Zamboni, he's a professor of the São Paulo State University and the Director of the Brazilian PEW Committee, and Dr. Leonardo Caram, he's a researcher at the National Cancer Institute and a member of the Brazilian PEW Committee. I would like to really thank Dr. Cara, Dr. Dario, and Dr. Leonardo for being here with us today. So for finding the time to be here. So thank you very, very much for being here with us. We'll start our presentation, our live, with Dr. Cara's presentation. Then we'll have Dr. Dario and Dr. Leonardo considerations and tips about the selection process here in Brazil. So please feel free to ask any questions. This is the time to resolve all of your doubts. Of course, you can get in touch with them later on, but this is a great opportunity, and I hope you appreciate it and you take advantage of it. So, Cara, please, thank you, welcome, and you can start whenever you feel like it.
Thank you, Carla, so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here and to speak with all of you today about the PEW Latin American Fellowship Program. And also really pleased to see Leonardo and Dario, who I've had the pleasure of working with for so many years on these programs. So now I can, I have a few slides that I'm going to share just to go over a few aspects of the program. And I hope that, again, you ask questions, but also that one of the takeaways from this presentation is that me and my team and Dario, Leonardo, and the rest of the Brazilian committee are here for you all as resources. So anything that you may not get from this presentation, I hope that you reach out and contact me and my team anytime, because we love this program. We want people to apply and be successful with it. So we're here as a resource for you at any time. So I did just want to start by showing you my team. We have a small team of staff, and my email address is here. I will also see if I can email these slides out to all of the attendees later so you can get this information. But in addition to my email address, we have a general program email, this Fellows app box. And so that way you might get a faster response because anybody on my team could respond to it. So please get in touch with us. We love talking to prospective applicants, and we want to help you learn more about the program. So just really briefly, a little bit about what PEW is as an organization. We are a public charity based in the United States, and we do work in a lot of different areas. The very short history of PEW is that PEW is a family name. So the PEW family founded like over 100 years ago. They started an oil and gas company. They got a lot of money from that, and the children of the PEW family decided to start a charitable giving program in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which is where they were living at the time. And they started giving grants to local organizations that they thought were doing good work around the city. So that was 70 some years ago. And so in that time, PEW has grown and changed and evolved a lot, but continues to give grants in many areas and also do advocacy work. So we're going to talk about this Latin American grant program. PEW also provides grants in marine research, organizations doing health and human services work. And PEW actually does a lot of interesting advocacy and policy work in a lot of areas like conservation, environmental protections. And if you're interested, you can go to our website, which is on this page as well, just to see what it's about. But again, the focus of this talk is to talk about this PEW Latin American Fellowship Program, which is one of 3 biomedical grant programs that we have at PEW. So this program has actually been around for 30 years. 1991 was the first granting class. So we're actually at our 30th anniversary, which is really amazing. And the program funds 10 fellows a year. So we run 1 grant competition every single year. And the goal is to have those fellows come to the United States to do a postdoctoral fellowship in the lab of a sponsor or another principal investigator. And we provide funding at the level of $30,000 US a year for 2 years. And this actual grant amount is what PEW is putting in, but the actual salary of the fellow is much higher than that. We ask for the sponsor to also put in money so that the salary of the postdoc is equivalent to what the NIH recommends for a postdoctoral fellowship. And then I think the most exciting part of this grant is that after you've done your United States postdoctoral fellowship, if you return to Latin America, we provide an additional $70,000 that you use to purchase supplies and equipment that you take back with you to Brazil to continue your research there. So really the goals of this program are not only to give international training opportunities and to push for international exchange of ideas, which is really important, but we also want to promote the scientific infrastructure of your home country and allow people to go back home, get a good job, you have equipment, it makes you attractive for hiring as well, and create a community back in your home country as well. And also another key component of the program, besides the funding, is that while you're in it, we have an annual meeting and we require you to attend it every year for 3 years. PEW covers the cost, and it's a really fantastic opportunity for community building and networking with the other Latin American fellows, but also the other junior faculty that we fund in our other biomedical scholars programs. So the impact of the program has been really fantastic. These are just, some things that alumni said in a not so recent survey about the impact of the fellowship on them and why, I encourage you all to consider applying. Getting the PEW Fellowship and especially having those funds to buy equipment and bring it back with you to Brazil made them more competitive for getting jobs. The return funding was essential for setting up their labs in Brazil. By coming to the US and being part of this program, they really expanded their network of colleagues, and it made them more visible to peers in their field. And it really gave them jumpstart of their careers and increased standards of rigor of their science. So it's a really fantastic program. And again, really has great benefits for the people that go through it. This is just showing a timeline of kind of the grant competition. So as I said before, we do this once a year. So we collect applications once a year and we award grants once a year. We just had applications come into us, and right now they're under review, and those applications will be selected in March or April of 2022. So this is actually a really good time to start thinking and planning ahead, because the next call for applications won't be until June of 2022. But now is the time to think about, if you want to apply, where do you want to work in the US, and looking for a sponsor lab is a really important part of this. So even though the next application cycle isn't going to open until June, this is kind of the time, if you're getting close to finishing your PhD, to start thinking about a sponsor lab in the US. If you are early in your PhD and you think this could be years away, just kind of look at this to get a sense of the time of year things happen. So even though the exact dates change year to year, the same time frame kind of happens every year, where the applications open in June. The applications are due to us at PEW in August. We work with the regional committee to go through review in September, October, and then we work with a second national committee to do more rounds of review through March, and then people are selected in April. So even if you're applying 3 years from now, the same timeline will exist. And again, so eligibility, this is for the next competition, so the one that would start in June of 2022. We have some cutoff dates of when we would like you to receive your PhD, and that's just to make sure this is an early career award. So you're probably finishing up your PhD, or you might be a postdoc in Brazil right now. And as long as you are a fairly recent PhD fitting in these dates, then you're eligible to apply. One of the key things is that you need to have identified the US lab where you want to work in order to apply. So that's part of the application process, is finding that lab, that sponsor, and that person will write a letter of support for you saying that, yes, like, should you be given the PEW Fellowship, you will be able to come to their lab and work. And we also limit, as shown in bullet 3 here, the number of how much time you've done a postdoc in the US. I think most of you are in Brazil right now, so this won't apply. But again, we're trying to give opportunity to people who have not yet had much or any training in the US at all. And then the last bullet here is just that there is always a conflict with other postdoctoral fellowships like the Human Frontiers Program and Life Science Research Foundation. But you can apply for all of these, but if you were to get all of these different awards, you would have to decide which one you want to accept. So I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about applications and evaluation. That's probably something also that Dario and Leonardo can speak to. But in general, you know, the applications are looked at in terms of the applicant. So who you are, what kind of research you've done, your publications, and your commitment to returning to Latin America. You also will, part of the application is a research proposal. So you will work on this, and your sponsor can work on it with you. And in that, we want to see that you're going to learn new things and gain new skills in your postdoc, and not just have it be kind of very similar to your thesis work. And then the committees also look at the lab that you're going to, because we really want to make sure that you're going to a good place, that you'll be well supported in terms of additional funding, and that you will have a mentor who is, you know, well-versed in training postdocs and will really help not just you with the science, but also thinking about your career and getting to that next step. So we have 2 different levels of committees that do the application review. So there are regional committees, as we'll talk again with Leonardo and Dario, and we have former PEW fellows, such as them, that make up the regional committee in Brazil that will review all of the applications from Brazil, interview their top individuals, and then select their top 6 that would move on to the next step of the competition. And at that point, those applications go to the United States National Advisory Committee for review. And those, and then 30 applications that are coming from different parts of Latin America will all come together for review. And it's from that 30 that 10 are selected for funding. Like I said, finding a postdoctoral sponsor in the US is one of the most important parts of this. So even though the applications don't open for many months, it's something that I really encourage you to take a lot of time and think about. And it can be a little bit overwhelming. Sometimes people already have an idea. It might be somebody you've met at a conference, or somebody your current sponsor or your current mentor works with, and that's great. But if you don't know, there are a lot of resources to use in trying to identify that sponsor. So you can talk to us at PEW, you can talk to obviously your thesis advisor, you can talk to the PEW Regional Committee. And then there are some links on this page to directories of other PEW-funded scientists who might be good mentors as well, because they're familiar with this program and they like to be involved with it as well. And I made a little kind of roadmap, really just to get people thinking about how to find a sponsor in the US. And because again, it can be overwhelming. There are thousands and thousands of scientists here to try and work with. But the takeaway is to spend time to talk to a lot of people. And as much as they might be interviewing you for a postdoc, I think you're interviewing them as well to make sure that the lab is a good fit. So I always recommend to potential applicants to at least make a list of 10 potential sponsor labs they're interested in, talk to lots of them to really see what's the best fit for you, and to hopefully take enough time, again, to find the right sponsor ahead of filling out the PEW application. This is just a snapshot of what is on our application. Again, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about it, but essentially it's pretty straightforward. You're giving us your CV information, who you are, where you've worked, where you've gone to school. We ask for a couple of personal statements about your career and intent to return to Latin America. We get reference letters from people that have worked with you. And then you have a research proposal where you tell us what you will work on in the US in the sponsor lab. And then the sponsor lab also will submit a letter stating their support for you and your application to the program. This is, again, the email address for the PEW general inbox. So again, please contact us with questions. This is also the website for the program. I'm just going to caution you that all of the eligibility and dates right now are for last cycle, since it just finished. We will update everything with the new information for next year in December or January. So again, please just remember that that is from the cycle that we're just doing right now. And then before we flip over to Dario and Leonardo, I just have slides where I have the committee members up. And of course, in addition to Dario and Leonardo on the Brazilian committee, we have 2 additional members. And again, they're really fantastic to work with. And here's their contact information if you want to get in touch with any of them. And then this, I realize it's a bit small, but these are the members of the National Advisory Committee. So these are all US-based scientists that review your applications at the next level of review. They're all fantastic, and they all have connections to Latin America, either being from there themselves or having worked extensively there. So they're a great group to work with. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and let Leonardo and Dario say a few words, and then be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Kara, for the explanation. I think you're very concise and it's very good. And I think maybe they'll have some questions, and I have just some questions that I'll make at the end. I guess I can bring Dario and Leonardo to chat a little bit. Maybe they can give tips. So they, as you said, they are in the committee, so because they were before PEW, they received the PEW fellowships, and then so they can give tips and maybe talk a little bit about how the selection process in Brazil works, and tips on making strong letters and that kind of stuff. So please just feel free.
So thank you very much, Carla, for the initiative. It's really great to expose a little more the program to the students and encourage them to apply. We always had strong candidates from Rio de Janeiro, so I know the science is excellent in Rio, and we strongly welcome all the applications that you guys may be thinking about for the future applications, as Cara mentioned, and also would like to thank Cara for the excellent presentation. It's very clear. And of course, for the students, they may have some questions. And as Cara mentioned, myself, Leo, Kelly, and Rodrigo, we are super open to discuss with you guys, either today and after today. Feel free to drop email to us or to ask for conversation. That is specific points that is very important for a successful application in the PEW. We can highlight some of the topics as we discussed today. So I think it's going to be a very nice interaction, and I'm very happy to be participating in this specific topic. And I open to Leo. Leo, I'm the current chair of the Brazilian committee, or as Cara mentioned, the regional committee from Brazil. And Leo is stepping up in the next year, so this is going to be my last year as a chair of the program. I'm being in the committee for many years now, and I think it's time to step down, and then we're going to have an excellent chair, I'm sure, which is Leo. Leo is from INCA, and he'll be like even closer to you guys. But even though you feel free to choose whatever member of the Brazilian committee you want for ask questions and discuss possibilities and what should we think about the PEW application. And I'm just going to highlight one point that is very important for PEW and for us, and of course you guys should think about it, is the choosing of the mentor. So we should you guys should think about a mentor that is gonna be very strong and fit and match with your interest in what you're gonna learn in US. And this of course is gonna be the future of the research you're probably going to do in the future years and upcoming years. So it's not an easy decision. And as Cara suggested, think about 10 or more PIs, and then you can choose. And we will be happy to help you guys to decide if you have any questions. And one point that is critical for successful application is that you guys should think about a mentor that is super top notch in the United States. Like it should be outstanding scientists. We have this idea that.
Can I ask you something? Maybe we should bring Cara, because I think it would be more of a dynamic here than. So yeah.
Great.
So because before when I talked to Cara, she actually said the choice of the supervisor in the United States is very important, and she actually made sure she presented about that, and you were talking about that too. So just to make it clear to the students, there is no PEW doesn't give you we have these labs where you can go to. You can choose from a plethora of labs in the United States if they meet the standards they require. So that's what Dario is trying to say now, I believe, right? So you have to have a top-notch labs, and you should think about it in advance. And so can you tell us a little bit more about these, like what labs, like what people should be looking for and discuss with their supervisors?
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for bringing this, Carla. So Cara mentioned a few websites that you can search for previous mentors of the Latin American in the past, which is great to start with because it means they got it right. So we are sure that they are excellent mentors. But also every PI in US is eligible to be your sponsoring PI. So you can choose whatever PI you want. But just this is a very important point for a successful application. You should choose a top-notch lab. Like it's a PI that is publishing the frontier of the knowledge, right? So it's a critical point. Sometimes we, as a regional committee in Brazil, we are sad sometimes because we see excellent students or PhD in Brazil applying for labs that are not so strong in US. And of course, this application doesn't have many chances of being successful because the competition is very high. So you guys should choose like an excellent PI. And that said, I'm gonna just give the word to Leo, and Leo can say a few words, and then we open for discussion. I think that's the best way to go, right?
Leo?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I want to start thanking Carla for this initiative and invitation. It's a huge pleasure for me to be here, especially among all of you. Cara and Dario have been working together for many years at PEW. And I'll just stress the words that Cara told you during her presentation, which was just perfect. We are here for you. So reach us out, get in touch. If you have any questions, we are here for you and to provide you assistance through PEW application.
So can I ask a question? How many applicants you have every year? It would be interesting for us to have an idea. You said you choose 6 from Brazil, and then you have 30 from other countries in total that you analyze, and then you choose 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how many applicants you have from Brazil, and how many applicants you have from all over the world?
Yeah, total. It's about. Are you hearing me? Sorry, I was getting the echo. Am I okay? So we get between 65 and 80 applications total. Brazil is usually leading the way with a lot of applications, 20, 25 perhaps. And then, you know, it can fluctuate year to year. We definitely saw a little bit of a dip with COVID the past couple of years, but I think we'll come back as people can start to travel again. And Argentina, Brazil, and Chile are the other countries with the most applications. And now we're starting to see more and more from Colombia, Uruguay, Peru, Ecuador as well. So we're getting more from those other countries.
Okay. And when you talk about you're talking about the labs, how to choose the sponsor labs and so on, can you give, I mean, you said you have to look for top-notch labs, and you have to find researchers that are really, really good at doing top science. And is there a way, I think Cara mentioned something that you can actually reach you, I have, maybe they can have a list of labs that they're thinking of and send it to you or not, for you to help them choosing the labs, the best labs, or is it a possibility if they do in advance? Or
yeah, I mean, we're always happy at PEW to take a look and at least tell you, just based on, you know, if this person has only been a faculty member for 3 months, probably not going to go very well, just in terms of not having a lot of experience in funding, you know. And so we're happy to take a look at their CVs and kind of give you our take on where we think they are in terms of their, you know, ability to be a good sponsor.
Okay, I think there was a question here from Alison that actually Taina put. I see here he says sponsors lab who have previously received PEW fellows, they have a higher chance of application success compared to people that didn't receive PEW fellows before, or not? Does it make a difference?
Oh, Dario, maybe I'm mute? I couldn't hear you.
Dario's mute.
Yeah, I was mute. Yeah. So maybe I can take this one. And so I think no. So it doesn't change anything if the PI in US was a previous mentor of an applicant in the past. Doesn't change anything. The only thing it says is that it's a PI strong enough to be winning a PEW, a very competitive and prestigious PEW fellowship. So which means the PI is very good. But it could be other PIs that are very good as well and never sponsor a PEW fellow, and then they are super. The chances are equal. I wouldn't say there is any chance, any improvement.
So you think which is more important, the sponsor lab or the applicant CV, or they're equal in that application process?
You wanted me to take this one, that you? I think they are equally important. These are Well, actually, as Kara mentioned, do you hear me?
Yeah, now, yeah, it's just like was cut a little bit at the beginning.
As Kara mentioned during her presentation, I think there are three parts that are really important: the sponsor, the applicant, and the project which is submitted. So I think they are equally important. Obviously, we are looking for the best candidates and also for the best mentors. And actually, what we call the whole package, when we have a strong candidate with a strong PI, that's the perfect match, and that's exactly what PEW is looking for. Obviously, also with a very strong project, right? So we are looking for this perfect combination between applicants and sponsors. Kara, please feel free to add.
Oh, that was perfect. Daria.
Yeah.
Can I just add one specific point for the students? So I would like to encourage you guys to think of yourselves as a possible applicant. Sometimes the students in Brazil, they think we count papers in order to select the best student. This is not true at all. We are more and more in Brazil and in the world seeking for high quality of the science, not number of papers, right? So sometimes there is applicants that have 30 papers, and we don't invite them to interview because they're not good enough, even though they have 30 papers, right? So, but sometimes the student have 5, 6, 4 papers, but they are super good and at high quality, and then we invite them for the interview and they continue in the process. So don't think that because you don't have a certain number of papers, you are not a strong candidate for the PEW. Maybe if you have a solid papers in the PhD, you just finished the PhD, you have great chances of winning. If you match with an excellent PI abroad, you are super in the track to be, you can win and get the fellowship.
So you just mentioned something that I didn't realize before. So you said like sometimes the person has 30 papers, but we will not invite for the interview. So how do you choose people that you're gonna interview from? Like from the 6 that chosen, how many were actually applying and being called for the interviews? You know, was that clear? Because I understood there are about 25 applicants from Brazil, but now I understood also that not all of them are called for the interviews. So.
Do you want me to take this study? So yeah, we usually have something around 20, 25 applicants, Brazilian applications that go to the Brazilian Regional Committee. They are usually based in Brazil, and they are usually from Brazilians. From these 20, 25 applications, we usually call 8 to 10 of them to the interview process, which is the second step of the evaluation. And then we move 6 of them forward to the National Committee evaluation, as Kara mentioned, right? 6 from each of the countries or from the 50 region to sum up the 30 applicants that will be revised by the National Board in the United States. And they are chosen by the Brazilian Regional Committee, which is obviously diverse, and we have 4 members, and each of us evaluate different situations. But as I mentioned, we are looking for strong candidates, and as Leo pointed out very clearly, we are not looking for the amount of papers, but the quality of the papers. First, authorship publications in solid journals. We are looking for the sponsors, PIs that have a strong record of training other postdocs, sustained financial support within NIH, and that are publishing in strong and excellent journals, and applications that, and obviously with cutting edge projects, with new applications, a training that cannot be obtained in Latin America is well encouraged by PEW as well. If the projects cannot be executed in Latin America, they are seen with a plus, because you're providing the student with the opportunity to be trained in something different, something new in the United States. I think that's the combination of many factors. It's not an easy task. We try to do our best effort and try to move forward what we think are strong candidates from that year. Please, Cara and Dario, add to this.
Do you guys want to add something?
I think it's perfect. The points that Leo raises is really, it's very tough for us to choose the candidates for the interview. That's probably the toughest part, because they're super good people, super good PIs, and recommendation letter counts a lot. The quality of the PI, the quality of the papers, the number of first authors, solid papers as a first author. Everything is important, but sometimes it's very hard to choose. And to make an unbiased selection in the Brazilian committee, each of us score all the candidates, and then we use it numbers to average, and then we see the best, the more qualified by all of us, and then we discuss in specific points. So maybe this candidate we should invite as well. So we reach the number of 8 to 10 to interview, and then we narrow this to 6 to send to the national committee, to the American committee. Then they're going to select together with the other candidates from the other Latin American regions like Argentina, Chile, Mexico, and the 5th region as well.
So once the people are selected here, so they have another step of selection, if I understood well. It's so is there another interview with the international committee or not? And the selection, the committee is, none of you here in Brazil from the Brazilian committee participates in this next step. How does it work?
I can take this one if you want. So when the Brazilian committee sends in their top 6, they have write-ups on each of those candidates that they send to us that then get appended to the applications that go to that next committee. So you're right. The members of the U.S. committee are different than the regional committees for each country, but we're getting the information that they obtained not only from reading the applications, but what they're getting in the interviews that the national committee might not get just based on the application. So the U.S. review committee does not do any interviews. They base their decisions on the application and the write-up from the Brazil committee, and go through the same, and it's the same, right? We have to be having the same criteria. So that they're having the exact same then thoughts and discussions, again, about it's not just one thing. And that's what makes it so hard, right? They're looking at everything in combination for the picture of the candidate, who they are, what they've done so far, what they're proposing to work on, who they're proposing to work on it with. And they're looking at that pool of 30 just as a whole pool, not looking at it, from Brazil or Argentina. We don't have any quota that, we're not we're going to fund X number from Brazil. They'll fund the top candidates. So those go through a couple rounds of review, and it ends with just there's write-ups and rankings, and then we sit in either a live room or a virtual room these days to actually deliberate and come out with the top 10 for funding.
Thank you, Karen. I think Carlos was also asking, I think Leonardo answered that question, but maybe you can point out what are the criteria that Pew considers for a strong PI. I think Leo, all of you talked a little about this, but maybe if you can point exactly like I said, research, a strong history of having postdocs, and maybe you can just talk a little.
Yeah, you're right. So having a history or track record of training postdocs who have gone on to start their own independent research career. The funding is important, that they have some NIH funding for a couple of reasons. One, because the Pew is only providing 2 years of postdoc funding. Often it takes longer than 2 years to finish a postdoc, and we want that PI to be able to support you to really finish out your project. We'll keep the Pew grant, your returning equipment funds will always just be waiting there for you. But what we don't want to happen is that, at the end of the 2 years, you're not done, but that sponsor doesn't have the funding to support you. So that is important. and having the facilities, being at an institution that might have the right technology and facilities to support, as Leo said, maybe you're trying to learn a new technique that you weren't able to in Brazil. So making sure that's there. And we, that sponsor will write a letter about not just why they want you in the lab, but also a training plan for you. So they'll demonstrate kind of their ability to think through what you need from career development standpoint. And then we also ask for their NIH bio sketch, which is a document showing the funding they have and, awards they might have won in their publications, so that the committee can see, again, where they are in their career and what kind of support they can provide to you.
Great. Fernanda is asking how to contact and be competitive for a position in an excellent PI's lab that you don't previously know. So I guess they receive too many emails from prospective postdocs every day. So you have tips for them, on how to contact PIs if you don't have previous contact, or if they don't have a previous collaboration. Usually, many times, the supervisors here, they have contact with these PIs, but let's say in the case there's no contact at all, how should they approach these PIs? Do you have any tips for that?
Yeah, so
go ahead,
I can start this one maybe. So I think we should all be encouraged to reach the PIs in US. If they are so good PIs, of course, it's because they work with a great team. So these excellent PIs, they're always looking for great postdocs. So even though sometimes it's hard, they may not see the email, you should try. Just drop an email and say that you are super excited to do a postdoc with them. And eventually some of them will reply, not all of them, but eventually your best, the one who wants more, reply your email, and then you have an open conversation with the PI. Another possibility, you can ask for your PhD advisor to reach them. So sometimes I have a student that didn't publish yet, and I want them they want to go to the United States, and the CV of the PhD student is not so strong yet because it didn't publish the paper. And then I drop this email to the PI, say, look, I have this excellent student, it's doing a very nice work, didn't publish yet, please take a look on them and interview them. And then I can set up an interview of the PhD candidate with a sponsor, a possible sponsor PI in US. And sometimes it works very well. And then they publish the PhD paper, and then they start the conversation. So either by direct sending an email or reaching in a meeting whenever everything is over of the COVID, we hopefully get in-person meetings in the future. And if you find a great talks or in meetings, you can reach the PI right after the talks. And also by asking a help from your PhD advisor, I would say.
Yeah, I would just add, I think maybe, I don't know in reality, but with so much being virtual also right now, see if there's any virtual talks that the people are giving that you might be able to somehow, get a question in and make a connection. And then the other thing I would say is to talk about that you want to apply for the Pew funding in that email, because they might be more, if they think you're bringing your own funding in, I realize you won't know if you have it yet, but I think just even showing that initiative, and you say, I want to come here, I want to do this, and I want to apply for this grant, it might catch their eye a little bit. So definitely, mention that when you're reaching out.
Great, I think
Perfect.
That's a great tip. Yeah. So the applicants, they don't have to write an essay about themselves, right? They just give their CV and then they have the interview, or they have to write something about themselves.
In addition to the the project proposal, there are a couple of small personal statements, one paragraph, one about the most impactful research they've done to date, kind of talk about what they're working on. One about their intent to return to Latin America. It's not there's not a binding agreement where you have to say, I already have a job, in 5 years. It's just to talk about what are your plans, so that we, hope that we're attracting people who do want to go back. and invest in the Brazilian scientific research enterprise. Well, and then this year we added like a COVID question just to COVID's impacted everybody, but we're just, trying to make sure we're fair and understanding the impact on people. But normally there's the two kind of personal statements.
And how do you think people should put themselves like during the interview, to show, how should they, what's the way to show that they're good? Is there a way, when you interview people, what are the things that you pick up, like from what they say, if you have something like this, if you've thought about something like this? Do you guys, Leo or Dario, maybe that do the interviews in Brazil?
Do you want to go there? Do you want me to go? Well, one thing that I think it's important to say about the interview process is that it's different from classical interviews. We are not there to put any pressure on candidates, right? We usually have received this package of 20, 25 packages. We narrow down to 10, and we have to move forward 6 of them. Obviously, we have very, very, very strong candidates and very strong applications. So it's more about knowing candidates, know their strengths, their difficulties, and try to provide the National Committee in the United States with information that they cannot read through the lines of the 30, 40-page application of each candidate, right? You can see the CV, you can see the project, CV of the applicant, CV of the sponsor, the project, but obviously there are much more behind this, the paperwork, right? So in my perspective, the interview process is more of a conversation and to know a little bit better of the candidate, to know his, her strengths, and try to provide with information to the National Committee that they cannot obtain from the paperwork that he brings.
Also, maybe the match between the sponsor lab and the person, or probably analyzing that too.
Yeah, maybe I'll go back to the point where I try to say a few topics that we look at the sponsor, at the applicant. There's not a magical recipe. I think I should say that. There are not boxes that needs to be checked and the candidate will get a Pell Grant. It's not like this. I mean, there are many, many aspects that we try to consider, and obviously the match between the candidate and the sponsor is very important, as many others, right? So, yeah, it's not easy.
I believe it's not easy. Having good people and choosing among them.
Yeah, especially from your institute. I mean, we have a strong record of PEW alumni, PEW fellows, alumni from the Instituto de Química Biológica from UFRJ, right? And many people from this. I won't name them because I'll be here the entire time.
Yeah. I think we have time for maybe a couple more questions. Marina is asking, I just started my PhD and I would like to ask you if you have any tips to become an eligible and strong candidate in the future.
Yeah, I would suggest, Marina, that you just enjoy your PhD and enjoy what we love to do, which is science. Just like jump yourself in the science, like read a lot, do a lot of experiments, have fun, and as a consequence, you're going to be a great candidate for the PEW Fellow program.
It should be a consequence, right? I think it's one of the things that students have to understand now. I think it's for themselves, right? So what they're doing now will affect the future. So the choice they're making now, if they are giving themselves to the PhDs or not, that will make a huge difference in the future. So let's just take the one here, the last one from Allison. Allison's very interested. I know him. He was a student in the course of mine. Hello, Allison. So the research topics which PEW has a priority for selection.
The short answer is no. We don't set any sort of like, this year we're funding neuroscience, next year we're funding cancer biology, next year we're funding immunology. Any trends you might see are not intended, like might reflect, a change in the applicant pool one year. Like this year there were a lot of neuroscientists that applied and they happened to get funded, but there's not any sort of, I should apply because I'm a neuroscientist and I have a benefit at all. It's really the best science and the best package, right, is going to be chosen. Or also don't count yourself out if you think they funded somebody that's working on a similar field last year, they wouldn't fund me. I just don't overanalyze that, because that's not what goes into consideration. And I see Dario and Leo, like they're nodding along as well. We fund a very broad spectrum of biomedical research. If you think, I'm in biophysics, is that too far to the side or something? You can always email us and ask, but we fund biophysics, we fund plant immunology, anything that you can tie into biomedical human health research is going to be within that very broad scope. But again, if you are a little unsure, always reach out to us and we're happy to check the topic or field.
So actually, it's great that you said it, because when I guess students get a little confused, because when you say like, oh, you have to be at go to top-notch labs, top science and so on, so people think of the trend topics, like what's like people talking about today. People talking about neurobiology, stem cell biology, and so they think like, oh, I work with insect behavior. No, they are not going to give me a fellowship to go. And so it's great that you said that, to show that like it all depends on
good science is good science. Yeah, we're not following a trend or anything. I mean, the nice thing is we don't have any like outside donor saying, Aunt Sally has glaucoma, I only want to fund glaucoma. Because sometimes that's how like these donor relationships can work. And we're lucky in that that's not the case. We're just going for the best candidates and the best science.
Great. So I guess actually, I don't know if you wanna say something else. Maybe we can start the Rio, Leo, and Cara, and then I just wanna ask you like a last thing, and this is for Leonardo and Dario specifically, because they've been PEW fellows before, and so I just want you to talk a little bit, if you can, about your experience and how how important it was for your career development and your future here in Brazil. So it would be nice for the students to hear from you, I believe.
Yeah, as I can start this one, and maybe Leo can comment a little bit as well. But I think for me personally, it was a life-changing experience, right? So you are in the fantastic lab. I would say the postdoc, it's probably the best moment of the scientist career, because you are learning a lot of things. You are exposed to great science, meeting people from all over the world. So it's great. And of course, the PEW, with all this annual meetings that the fellows can attend. We interact a lot with the scholars, which are another group of scientists, but more like the young PIs that just got a job in the United States. And now there's the steward, the more like PIs that works on cancer research. So it's a fantastic experience. And of course, we maintain a lot of communications between the former PEW fellows. So we have sometimes these networks in meetings we discuss, and we try to move on science in Latin America. That's the main goal of the program, and it's a very, very nice experience. I think I strongly encourage you guys to apply. It's great to be part of the PEW family, and it's even if you don't win the PEW fellowship, you should really think about doing a postdoc abroad, in choosing an excellent mentor in the US. I'm sure this is going to be fantastic for your career, for your growing as a scientist, as a investigator. That you should definitely pursue this idea. I would suggest.
I agree. Leo?
Well, I don't think I have to add what the perfect words that Rio mentioned to you. I mean, it has been life-changing, huge honor to be part of this PEW family. Always thanking Kara and PEW for having supported us, and it's a pleasure to serve PEW now as a member of the committee. We are here for you. Reach us out if you have any questions, comments. Reach us out. We are here to assist you, to provide you, and wishing the best of luck for everyone, all the candidates, and a brilliant future for the students ahead. Yeah.
Thanks. I'll just say, because I think it's an important question. So before I finish, Fernanda asked, is it an issue to propose a project using methodologies or approaches away from the applicant's previous experience?
Yeah, maybe I can take this one. Actually, it's actually good to change a little bit. So we see as a positive side. So don't think that because you did like a PhD in insect entomology or bioinformatics or microbiology, you should do a postdoc in the same area. That's not true at all. Great science can learn a lot of techniques from different areas of the research. Like the scientific thinking is the same. So you learn what you had to learn in terms of how do the scientific method works, and now you can change easily. And the PEW, as far as I learned from the program, that is not problem at all. Actually, the problem happens if one applies to a lab that is very well connected to the lab you are doing the PhD. So let's say if I send a student from my lab as a PEW applicant to the mentor that I trained in the US in the PEW when I was the PEW, that will be bad for the application because there's a lot of endogeny, and the PEW wants to change a little bit. So you go for another area, go for another labs, and don't try to be going to the same place your PhD advisor trained in the US. So you should definitely change. That's my suggestion.
Yeah, I would say I say the exact same thing, and that's one reason that choosing the right sponsor and a strong sponsor, we believe that if you pick the right sponsor, they're the ones who are going to teach you these new things, and it's good, and we want you to grow and expand. So, picking the right person who will do that is important, and it's a good thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think adding expertise is never too little, right? So it's very important for the future. So great. So thank you very much again for being here with us today. Thanks, Kara, for answering my email so quickly and promptly. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Dario, Leonardo, for being with us. I think we were able to bring some important information here today for the students, and I hope people apply not only to PEW, like Dario said, but they think about a postdoc abroad, which is very important. And I'll finish with Wagner that said here, thank you very much. I believe you know him. Wagner Seixas is a professor at our institute. So thank you very much. PEW was a watershed in my career. I'm happy to see students having the opportunity for discussion. Wagner is now our director of the graduate program in our institute. So I'm very happy that he is here too. And thanks a lot for everybody that was here today. Thank you again. I think we can finish. Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.